by order of Starfleet Command, I am authorized to welcome you to the Voyage. In this episode, I wish to talk about the power distribution tray. This tray right here. Not to be confused with the powers tray, which is over here and here. This is just the additional power tray. If you go to rearrange the power tray, you'll see a new button right here. It'll bring up another power tray. You're allowed to have two. This one's always vertical, this one's always horizontal. But I digress. Alright, some of the powers are pretty straightforward. You know, you have weapons, which increases your weapon strength. Shields, which will increase shield generation. You know, stuff like that. So I'll go through that real quick. Let's divert all power to the weapons and watch our weapon strength increase. And as you see, it's slowly going up. I have a very basic build on this science vessel, as Dahlia just capped just a few days ago, so I really haven't done any build time with her. So now shields. There's actually a simple mathematical calculation to determine shield generation rate. We go into here. As you can see, this shield array has a regeneration of 234.5 shield points every 6 seconds. So if this had a shield level of 50, that is how much your shields would regenerate. At 25, your shields are just stable. They don't get any regeneration. At 50, you get your basic, which is that regeneration rate. At 100%, at 100 points, it doubles. And at 125, you're at your maximum that shield you have on can actually regenerate without assistance, because you also can have little consoles like that which affect your shield generation rate. And engines, as you see, I actually modified the basic. So instead of 50 points being diverted to the shields, 50 points are diverted to the engines. And as you'll see, I have like close to 60 points, 57 points in shield generation. Most of it's from like my consoles and my abilities that I have set up. Engines, again, this is also straightforward. Move forward. It's a faster move rate forward. Let's move around this monument. It also affects your reverse rate. Let's get some power down and watch as you'll see my speed decreases. It does not affect maximum impulse, full impulse, which is Shift R, which diverts all power to the engines and actually takes you at, I want to say, impulse rate of 155, probably a little higher. The confusing one, and the reason this video is getting made, because it was asked to me, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of auxiliary power? Most of your science officers, if you're a science officer, your innate ability, like rotate shield frequencies, are rumored to be affected by auxiliary power. On my science tune, which is William, I actually increased his auxiliary power and tested it. I didn't see any actual noticeable changes. Where you actually see it is in your science bridge officer spots. Their powers are almost always directly affected by auxiliary power. I'll raise auxiliary power to max and then show you gravity well. As you can see, its kinetic damage per second is rising with it. Same thing with Tychon's Rift. I believe the tractor beam as well. Some traits that aren't affected. Most engineering bridge officer abilities are not affected. Some are, most aren't. And with tactical, right now he has subsystem targeting. It doesn't really affect it at all. I heard it might actually affect the amount of energy drained from your enemy's powers, but I have never actually done it in a PvP match. I was planning to do it for this episode, but with a fleet member of mine, but mine and my other fleet members' schedules didn't exactly match up. So that's pretty much the very basics of power. I'll post a link in the description to a blog. No. I'll post a link to the description in a forum post, and I'll see if I can find it. The stowiki article on it. It goes more comprehensive, and it can probably describe it much better than I can. The only reason I'm quickly throwing this video together is I need something put up today. I'm already late, so. And everybody wants to see my science officer's layouts. Well, some people want to see it. Alright, Friday I got her the Aatrox carrier. Meaning now all of my Federation characters have their own paid, C-store vessel. Which is now making me wonder why I don't really buy one for my Klingon. Except for the fact that I don't play him that much. Alright. I'll start with the weapons. All of my phasers all of my beam weapons use Tetrion. It's what came with the Aatrox. It looks good, so I think I'm going to build around the Tetrion system. J10 used to be, and she used to run phasers. Her phasers were only marginally better than what they are now, and some of the arrays were worse, so I figured no harm in switching this early. And then she runs a quantum torpedo setup. She runs Mark 11 in the front, Mark 10 in the rear. The Mark 10 came with the vessel. I happen to have Mark 11. As soon as I get a Tetrion turret, I'm going to put the turret in place of the quantum torpedo launcher in the rear. My deflector is pretty much a basic deflector. It came with the vessel. I have a Mark 11 with speed bonus in my impulse engines, combat impulse engines, so they work efficiently at low power levels. Pretty much speed only affects your full impulse speed, and that's about it. Shield, I have a very rare shield array Mark 10 with disruptor, plasma, and Tetrion damage resistance. Well, it actually reduces the damage by 20%. Of course, I have all the batteries. I use the auxiliary battery on this tune a lot so that her bridge officers, since I use the gravity well so much, can be affected a lot more. Way more effective. But of course I have all the other batteries just in case. My engineering console. I've got the injector assembly Mark 8 plus 2.2 to engine power. Neutronium alloy Mark 9, which is 12.5 to kinetic and all energy resistance. Field emitter, which gives me plus 3 power setting, which increases the power level down here by 3 points. Shield emitter amplifier, which gives me plus 12.2 shield regeneration rate. Sensor probes, which increases my sensors, which is good in PvP because it helps you detect other cloaked vessels. And it's really good because birds of prey, they'll stay cloaked when they go red alert, so you can pretty much destroy them before they know what happened. Flow capacitor, Mark IV, plus 15 starship flow capacitors. Flow capacitors actually affect power drain. So as you see, my beam arrays, one of them says minus 10 weapon power when firing other weapons. That will actually dampen the drain off of that. Also, power siphons and other power draining abilities get dampened by flow capacitors. So essentially they operate just like if you're into electronics, they operate just like a capacitor does in electronics. Biofunction monitor, which gives me plus 15% crew recovery rate. After Season 6 came out, they nerfed crew recovery on starships. So even if you're out of an alert phase, your crew recovery is very slow. This vessel and my Odyssey have 3,000. And naturally, once your crew's down to near zero, you can't use certain abilities like boarding parties. Tactical consoles. I have a warhead yield chamber, Mark 10, plus 16.2% torpedo weapon damage. I have actually gotten a question about this. Does it affect other kinds of torpedoes, or is it just photons? It'll affect photons, quantums, chronotons. It will not, at least not that I've seen, I could be wrong, but it will not affect tricobalt devices because they're considered devices and not torpedoes. Devices that go into a weapon slot, I guess. And directed energy distribution manifold, which gives me plus 12.5 beam weapon damage. Another question I get with this one is, does it affect dual beams? And yes, it does. It does not affect cannons, dual cannons, or dual heavy cannons, or turrets, and it just affects your beam arrays and your beam banks. So, and because I have a carrier, I have an area called hangar. Your cruiser carriers, like the Aatrox carrier, or your science carriers, really. I like to call them cruiser carriers because they move around like a cruiser does. They have two. Your escort carriers, like the Armitage, has just one because they're faster moving. You could support 2 wings out of each carrier bay. I have a Stalker Fighter, which came with this vessel. I plan to upgrade to the Advanced Stalker Fighter. I make all of my tunes earn all of their dilithium. Unless I really want something. Then I'll go about the hassle of transferring it. But that's for another episode. And then I got some shield repair units. I didn't have the dilithium to buy the reinforced shield repair units, or whatever the stronger ones are, so I just got the energy credit version. These can be targeted and they launch 2 at a time as opposed to 3 like all combat vessels. Pretty much launch them fairly easily. I'll launch the Stalker Fighters and my repair units. These repair units are not to be confused with the work bees that come with the Odyssey class. The work bees repair hull damage. Shield repair units just repair your shields. They'll work on raising your shields as you get attacked. These can be attacked as you see they're targetable. The enhanced ones have a much beefier hull and can regenerate more shields. Stalker Fighters, I like these things because The advanced ones can do an anti-proton sweep, which is good in PvP areas. These guys cannot. They have Tetrion arrays. Whoops. Tetrion pulse cannons, Thoron generator, and their hull signature is masked. Essentially, that means they're harder to target. The improved version has just better weapons on them, and this one I like. They have the anti-proton sweep, which disables all cloak on all vessels that get hit by it for a good number of seconds. It's good if you're in a PvP area, as the well-organized Klingons, when you do fight them, will be in groups, and sometimes they'll have birds of prey wings, where one or two of them are cloaked, and will decloak when one's out of combat. It's a way to keep you fighting as a carrier can attack you. But they'll hide, and sometimes they'll hide in the same area. And a lot of times, especially if you're fighting Federation ships, like the retrofit Defiant that has the cloaking device, a lot of Federation players that have a vessel with a cloaking device ignore their stealth rating. I have to tell you, don't ever ignore your stealth rating if you use anything like cloak. That stealth is your best friend if you use cloak to sneak up on somebody. I'll go into that one in another video. Probably my next one. My next video will be a live video where I just answer some questions that people have given me. If you have any questions for it, leave it in any of the comments of any of my videos. Send me a message on Twitter at Basic Computer Help, or you could follow my Basic Computer Help fan page on Facebook. Until then, have a nice day.